All right, everybody, welcome back to the BHS Art Demo Digital Marketing Blueprint 101. This is session 2. That's right, session 2. And in this session, we are building. All right. Last session, we were blueprinting. Last session in session 1, we were blueprinting. In this session, we are building. If you have not had a chance to watch session 1, you need to stop this immediately and go watch session 1 because a lot of the things that I'm referring to now will not make sense to you. Plus, this is building on last week's material, so you got to go back session 1, do the blueprinting, lay the foundation before you can start to build. All right, so here we go. I got to make an admission to you. We broke this art demo up into 3 weeks. But there's really not a whole bunch left to teach. As I said in session 1, the learning is on the other side of doing. So you've got enough theory to get you started, and if you've done even a little bit of the homework, you started to transfer that theoretical knowledge into practical application, moving from a potential energy into kinetic energy. So let's put some stuff in practice. Practice is the operative word. To get you comfortable creating your own content, you're going to practice by recreating one of your favorite videos. I know we've been told our whole lives that it's wrong to copy off of others. Yet, there's a quote that says, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So, let's start to flatter someone. In session 1, we picked several channels that we like. Now it's time to find the one that we like the most and pick the one video from that channel that we really, really, really like. The one that made you think, man, I hope one day I'll be able to make something that's half as good as that. All right, you got it? Good. Now you're going to recreate that video word for word and frame for frame. I know this may sound potentially risky, but it should not. This video will never go on your channel. That shouldn't give you an excuse, though, not to produce it as if it were. Even though it will never be posted, it will be extremely profitable in unleashing your potential, okay? By recreating this content, you'll get a really good feel of what the creative process is like without having to worry about original scripts or storyboards or composing your own video shots out of thin air. Instead, you're going to focus only on what it actually takes or what it feels like to make the video and what it's like to be on camera or record the voiceover and how to work your way around different techniques to make the video all come together. One of my coaches used to always say, imitate before you innovate. Imitate before you innovate. Here's something to keep in mind. This may be your very first YouTube content ever. Therefore, you should set some reasonable expectations. Well, actually, you should set the only real expectation that matters. Remember that this is not going to be perfect. Don't fall into what I like to call the Lexus trap. The Lexus trap. Let's unpack that a little bit. The car company's tagline is the relentless pursuit of perfection. If you're like me, sometimes you never start a project because you have this grand vision that you want to see happen, and you don't know how to pull it all together in this first iteration, so you just keep on trying to make everything perfect before you actually launch. You want to see that grand vision immediately. Well, the Lexus you see today rolling off the assembly line, I mean, you can't compare that, right, to where they started. You have to go back to that first Corolla, right? That first Corolla. So you can't imagine a 2021 Lexus LS hybrid when you see a 1988 Toyota Corolla. So you got to give yourself some permission to pursue perfection through the process. I'm going to say that again. You have to give yourself permission to pursue perfection through the process. If you try to make the video perfect without any mistakes, you're going to waste a lot of time. The only way to get really good at something is to practice it over and over again. As I said last week, ditch diggers are the only profession that starts at the top, okay? So, since we know that, and we're not in the ditch digging profession, we are artists, then we have room for improvement. I don't expect this video to be perfect, and hopefully you won't either. I'm giving you the gift of hindsight. Instead of working on your first video for the public, then releasing it and saying, oh, I wish I would have, or only if I knew, you'll be able to gain valuable insight by encountering mistakes and miscues when it doesn't matter, okay? You got to keep it simple this time around. So grab that professional camera that's sitting right next to you. Oh yeah, that high grade camera. That's right, your cell phone. It's all you need right now. You're gonna get ready for pre-production and filming. Go through your favorite video and break it down shot by shot. I strongly recommend you make a shot list, which is nothing more than a glorified spreadsheet. And when you watch the video, and write down a description of each segment, write how long that segment is and the point of view of the camera angles. Do whatever you need to help make it stick as close to the original script or close to the original video as possible. Avoid the temptation to skip or change anything. Remember, imitate before you innovate. Imitate before you innovate. If it's heavy on dialogue, spend some time writing it out line by line so you have a script to work from. Being organized will make your shoot so much smoother and faster. Don't try to fix in post-production what should have been firmly done right and during production, okay? It's a headache, and you always find yourself wishing you had done it right the first time, right? Once you complete your pre-production, then it's time to start filming. Okay? All right. So once you complete filming your footage, then you're going to move on to post-production or editing that footage. You'll need some simple equipment at this stage in it. First, you're going to need a computer, which I assume you have since you are watching this on the interwebs, all right? Or you talk somebody into letting them, you talk somebody into borrowing their computer, and so you're using that. So just ask them to borrow it again and continue to move, all right? Next, you're going to need some editing software. All right, there's a lot of software out there, right? We're not going to get into the Mac PC debate. I highly recommend DaVinci Resolve 16, okay? DaVinci Resolve 16. It works on Mac and PC, I'm pretty sure, and you can't beat the price. How much does it cost? It is free. $99. That's right, free $99. No need to upgrade to the paid version, which I think is about $300. Don't do it. You won't need it. The free version that you'll download will definitely do the job. I've been using it for probably about 6 weeks, doing it on some post-production for a congregation over in the East Dallas area. And I'm telling you, it will give you everything that you need to complete this project. Remember, you're not editing a Hollywood blockbuster. You're simply taking the test material and stitching it all together. If you learn the basics of editing now, you'll be putting yourself way ahead of other YouTubers. I started editing in grad school using iMovie. That was the first thing that I edited on. Once Final Cut Pro 10 or FCPX was released a couple of years later, I made the switch. I had free access to the software in the lab on campus. You know, I opened up a book that had step-by-step tutorials. I went through the book, every exercise in that book. Well, not actually every exercise in the book. Actually, before I finished the book, I started to share a couple of projects with family and friends and colleagues. And before I knew it, people were asking me about, how much I charge to edit video. The rest is history. I'm sitting before you now. Okay, so that is the first part of our second session, right? This is the first module where we're going to copy your favorite content. Yes, imitation is the greatest form of flattery. So we're going to imitate before we innovate. Okay, we are so close to making our first original piece of content for our YouTube channel. I should say you're so close to making your first original piece of content for your YouTube channel. So I'm excited for you. But there's one more thing that you need to do. Before you create your first video, you need to name it. So your action step in this part is going to be to jot down a few possible titles. Now, this title is important because it'll help dictate the direction of your content. Okay? It will also serve as, let's say, like the headline from a newspaper or the beginning of a tweet or, something compelling that makes people want to move forward. Okay? So if you're having a hard time coming up with something that feels right here are some tips. First, ask yourself, would some random person be compelled to click on this video? Your goal here is to pique the interest and get clicks. Okay, that's the number one goal with the title. That's the only thing that we're trying to with the title is an invitation to invite somebody to come in and take the next step in the journey. Okay, so there's a balance here. You don't want to make the title boring or too dry. Neither do you want to make that title clickbait. Okay, we don't want to promise something that we're not going to deliver. All right. Secondly, is it clear and understandable? If people don't understand your title, they probably won't click on your video. Now, that is to say that if you're in a certain industry and there's jargon, then people within the industry may understand that title. So it needs to be understood by people who will probably looking for or engaging that. But you may also want to broaden out that title or use that title in such a way that somebody who's new or uninitiated may understand it, right? Now, I'll admit that the title of the art demo was a bit cryptic. Right there, we got feedback, and I received that feedback that people didn't really understand what we were going to be covering in the art demo. I could have done a better job with the sub headline to increase that initial interest. So don't make the mistake that I made. Okay, if you're speaking to a general audience that is not initiated in your craft, then you want to make the title in such a way that they understand it. Next, ask yourself if the title elicits emotion. Okay, people are much more likely to click on your video if the title makes them feel something. It doesn't matter what it is that they feel. If it makes them click, if it makes them feel something, they're more likely to click on the video. So don't be afraid to appeal to emotion, be it positive or negative. All right. Finally, make sure that your title is specific and it sets up a promise that you can deliver. There is nothing worse, I know you know, there is nothing worse than clicking on a video and finding out that the title is not that the contents do not match the title. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing. So let's not be guilty of that, okay? Let's make sure that the title is specific and it sets up a promise that you plan to deliver in that video. When we first started out, one of my best friends and I, when we first started out helping local businesses, we would set up a series of frequently asked questions and should ask questions. And the parameters that I set around those frequently asked questions and those should ask questions are one problem, one solution. Okay, one problem, one solution. Now, if you're making a little bit longer video, you could expand and break it into modules or break it down like that. But we want to make it as easy as possible for the person to answer a simple question succinctly, to get their answer question succinctly. So one problem, one solution. Okay. Then if you want to unpack that or expand that, that's where the should ask question comes in, right? So you want to expand that and give the person insight into something or into things that they may not have considered. But remember, one problem, one solution, okay? Now it's time for you to create your title for your first video using these guidelines, all right? You don't need to be too cute here, okay? Let's not get too cute. Unlike a baby, you can change the name of your video if you need to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. I would put in the hard work first so you don't have to come in and revise it later. But that option is available, so don't worry about it. If you need to, change the title. But I would say let's put in the work to make sure that that original title is good, okay? And the reason why we want to make sure that the original title is good is because when we load up that video and YouTube indexes it and eventually Google indexes it, we want them to index it the first time the right way. Okay, we don't want to depend on them to come back and recrawl the video and see a new title. Okay, so we want them to index it the first time the right way so you can get as much potential out of that video as possible. You want Google to drive as much traffic to that video as you possibly can, and naming it right the first time is key. And I'll talk about that in just a minute as we get moving to this next module on session 2. All right. All right, everybody, we are moving right along. And guess what? You're ready. That's right, you're ready. You've identified your favorite channel. You've identified the best video or the most appealing video on that channel. You've created a practice video using that video, modeling that video. Now it's time for you to bring your very own video to life. Okay, you're saying, hey, man, that is not enough instruction. Well, this is one of those Karate Kid moments, wax on, wax off. I have not thrown you into the deep end. I have not left you high and dry. There's a method to this madness. The recreation video that you made wasn't just a simple exercise. You're going to remix that video with your very own content and creativity. That's right. All you have to do is follow the same pattern, just plus it. That's right. I said plus it. Yeah, add to it. Make it your own. Plus it, personalize it. By taking these steps, you're doing something that most people are too terrified to do. Remember, you're not making a perfect video. You're making your first video, the first of many. Just the same way you made your first painting, your first pottery, or your first poem. One of my professors at grad school would always say, after we wrote something, he would always say this: revise, revise, revise. Okay? When it comes to these videos, I encourage you to refine, refine, refine. So let's get out there, let's make it, and then we'll refine it as we continue to make more videos. All right? Good. Congratulations. You've not only taken the time to learn the strategies behind great YouTube content, or I should just say creative content in general, you've also put everything you've learned into practice by creating your first piece of original content. This is the beginning of a grand adventure. Once you finish editing your video, there are still a few steps before you upload it to YouTube, and that's what we're going to do, and this is going to be our last session today. We are going to need to create an attractive end card. That's right. It's just an image with some text that shares a call to action on it, like subscribe to my channel, buy my artwork here. You want to give people an opportunity. It's not time to be bashful. It's not time to be shy. You want to give people an opportunity to interact with you on a deeper level. Okay, so if that's subscribing to your channel, if that's buying your artwork, if that's sending an email to get to your newsletter, if that's free recipes that they can download, this is where you want to invite them into a deeper relationship with you. Okay, so this goes at the very end of your video. Don't worry about making a perfect end card from scratch though. YouTube has built-in tools to help you with this, and I'll also provide you some templates as well. We'll jump back into Canva as well, because Canva is a very good resource there. Since you'll need an end card for all of your future videos, it's good to get into the habit of using them right now. The end card serves a very real purpose. It helps keep people on your channel. It gives them that sticky factor, right? So just like when you're watching Netflix, or you're, once you're in the series, they make it easy for you to binge and stay in what I call a Netflix state of mind, because at the end scene, when those credits start to roll, they're already queuing up the next movie and putting it on autoplay for you. So that's what makes it easier for you to spend hours and hours and hours. So you want to do the exact same thing with your content. Let's learn, take the techniques from the big boys to make sure that once somebody finishes, they have an opportunity to continue in this relationship with you. Okay, the other thing that you'll need is a thumbnail image. All right, now you don't want to let YouTube select the image for you, right? Because YouTube will take they'll capture 3 frames, three stills from within your video, and they'll eventually make one of those the thumbnails. And now it may sound small, but your YouTube thumbnail is one of the most important things that you'll need to make for each one of your videos. Okay, and we talked about creating images, and definitely if you haven't not watched Gretchen's session on creating images, then you want to go back and watch that. So creating a compelling thumbnail is essential because it's the viewer's first impression about what they are going to see. Okay, so if that impression isn't exciting, they'll scroll right by your video and choose one with a more intriguing thumbnail. Okay, we don't want that. We've put in a lot of work, and we don't want to get discounted or disregarded because our thumbnail image is not. All right, so if you're diligent about this, it could help you, it could help your video, right, tremendously, right? So you don't end up with a dud like this instead of a dynamite image like this. Okay, so here are 3 quick tips to supplement Gretchen's training, right? Okay, you want to make sure your thumbnail accurately reflects your video content. That's easy enough, right? While you're editing your video, just take a screenshot of a nice part of your video, right? You just want to capture the screen. You want to enlarge the video on your computer, and then you want to take a screenshot of that, right? And then you can use that as the base of your thumbnail, okay? The second part, the second tip is you want to grab attention. Remember, people are browsing YouTube and they have endless amounts of content options. So you want to use some eye-catching visuals to make sure your thumbnail just doesn't blend in with the background, right? So if it's right for your voice, if it's right for your audience, consider adding bright colors or funny emojis to make sure your image pops off the page. You know, emojis may be a little bit over the top for your audience, and it may not be your voice, your personality, but you definitely want to add some bright colors, some bold fonts to make sure that the video pops off the page, okay? All right, tip number 3. All right, you want to focus on faces. Remember to show a close-up shot of any faces in your video, especially if the face expresses some type of intense emotion, okay? Whether or not your thumbnail includes a face, though, make sure that you keep the text to a minimum so it's easy to read at a glance. Remember, people may be consuming this content on their telephones, right? So you have to think, is this easy to read if it's on somebody's phone, okay? Now, once you've created your thumbnail, you want to name it with the same name of your video. That's why the title of your video is important. That's why I told you you don't want to change it. We want to try to get this right in the beginning, okay? And so you've heard these things talk about keywords. Keywords is a search term, so it's really just extracting the main idea from the question that you're answering, okay? So you want to make sure that your thumbnail is named the same as your video. This will help you optimize the thumbnail for Google search and support the video on YouTube search, all right? If you name your thumbnail right, once you upload the custom thumbnail, it will appear in the Google image search results, okay? I've done it. It's one of those nice little hacks. It's one of those, ninja tricks that we talk about, okay? Don't skip this. It's huge. And whatever you do, right, do not leave that as some crazy. And let me say this first. You'll need to name the file also. So you want the file, the video that you've created. You want that file, you want the thumbnail to have the exact same name so they are in sync so YouTube can see the coordination, right? So you'll need to name the file first. Name it while it's on your computer. Don't upload it and then name it, okay? You make sure the name of the file matches the title of the video. This helps YouTube immediately determine what your video is all about. This is optimization 101, right? This is search engine optimization 101. Now, having said that, never ever use a thumbnail with a name like 340-803-34403.jpg. No. Or even a video with a random name like that. No, that is shooting yourself in the foot, okay? You have to show YouTube that you are organized and every piece of content on your channel is intentional and impactful, okay? So the naming conventions are huge, right? It's just like going to a library. They are named, they are categorized, they are easy to find once you understand that. So we want to make sure that we tell YouTube and Google, we tell the search engines exactly what we're talking about to make it easy to find, okay? So when people are searching for them, we want those results to come up, all right? Okay, so well, what do we have here? This is the last portion of this session 2. Next week, next week we're going to actually optimize the video, upload it to the channel, and make it live. All right, so if you've got any questions, all right, I would ask that you would leave those below in the comments. I will also take any questions that people may have and answer those at the end of next week's session, okay? So we finished session 1. Right? Blueprint. Now we finished session 2, building. Okay, next week in session 3, we're going to go to broadcast. All right, so if you've got any questions, if you've got any comments, then leave those below in the chat. I know I also owe you some downloads, so you want to look into the description area there, check the links for any practice sheets or any collateral material that is also included. And also there are probably be some links to some videos of some guys that I really trust that'll show you how to do some of those things. Instead of me recreating the wheel, we'll just reference those, such as creating thumbnails or end screens, and then you can go right there and watch those videos, and they'll help you do the homework. All right, this has been another grand opportunity for me to teach, to help you, and I hope that you are enjoying the content, but most importantly, I hope that you're also taking action. Okay, by the end of this month, right, we ought to see a few dozen YouTube channels with brand new content on them. All right, that is my hope, that is my prayer for you, because as a creator, as an artist, I want to see you continue to create, and I want to see other people enjoy the wonderful things that you've created. All right, so take care, and I will see you next week.